Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to A Push History Online. Let's get started. Okay, today we begin our review of Period 3, and this is the first, and this won't just be one lesson. This will be a series of lessons because Period 3 will be the first unit that is a active unit in terms of it can have a DBQ question directly from Period 3, because Period 3 has the French and Indian War and has the American Revolution. It has the birth of the nation, pretty much, Articles of Confederation, and then followed by the U.S. Constitution. Okay, so just early America as a country. But today we're going to go over the origins, right? We're going to go over Unit 3.2 all the way to Unit 3.5, the causes of the American Revolution. Why were the Americans victorious? You know, even though we were the underdogs, how did we win? It looked like we weren't going to win, but we did. So we're going to use a skill for DBQ practice of supporting an argument, right? We're going to make better thesis statements, make sure we're following the thesis formula, and making a claim that we can support with evidence. Okay, and we'll be sourcing as well. Overriding question: what are the causes of the American Revolution? Which was the most significant? Okay, so we're going to look at all the causes, but we're going to categorize them in terms of relevance, right? So the one that's the most important and the one that's the least influential. At the end of the lesson, you should understand the French and Indian War, which was the cause of the revolution, right? The economic causes of the revolution, the ideology of the revolutionaries, the role of the common sense and Thomas Paine's Common Sense, and the Declaration of Independence by Thomas Jefferson, and why the Americans won the Revolutionary War. Okay. Let's start off with the French and Indian War. We're going back, okay, 1754, boom. So, a little bit of background before we get to the French and Indian War. Here's, he's not a hair metal guitarist. No, this is King William, okay? And, man, that's only a face a mother could love, huh? Nah, just kidding. I'm not trying to hate on him, but King William III of England, yes, the product of, you know, keeping it in the family. So, British fought the French and Indian allies. So Indian raids. So France and England are going to have constant, you know, tension with each other because their colonies are neighbors with each other, and they're always going to have beef in Europe. France and England are always going to be throwing shade, causing drama. So the Indians are going to like the French because the French were more chill with them and were better trading partners. The British were haters with the natives. So the Indians are typically going to be on the French side. So the French raided Iroquois villages as well. You know, like the Iroquois, they're going to be on both sides because they are OG like that. But the British, they're going to get some wins. They're going to gain Port Royal, but then they give it back at the end of the peace negotiations. Britain, they're going to fail to get Quebec. They're going to fail to get any more territory in Canada. Okay, so this is the precursor to the precursor to the precursor. Okay, so King William's War, it's just another piece of evidence you can throw in there to be, you know, kind of a history buff, you know. All right, background: Queen Anne's War. Whoa, why are they naming all these wars after themselves? Maybe because they're into themselves a little too much. British fought against France, Spain, Native Americans. So look, guys, common trend. The European powers are always fighting each other. Once again, England's not going to be able to take Montreal, not going to be able to take Quebec. So this time the Iroquois, they're like, whoa, we don't want to get involved. Last time it ended bad for us. A lot of haters out there. We're just going to be, you know, neutral, grand settlement. So it ends with the Peace of Utrecht. And England gains Acadia, Newfoundland, and trading rights with Spain. Okay, so King George's War, another war. Wow, Europe loves wars, as we know, for some strange reason. English against the French and the Spanish. So the colonies are always competing with each other militarily. So a lot of the colonist guys are going to start to get some street cred for their military efforts, right? So a lot of back and forth, okay? England invades New France. They take territory. They get a fort, but then they give it back with the treaty. So you can see this trend, guys. Look at the pattern of causation. They fight each other. They take each other's stuff, and then they give it back. They're just flexing on each other. They're like, "What's up? Remember that time I took that from you? Oh yeah. I don't have to give it back next time." All right. Look at this map, guys. We see Russia's in the game, but on the very edge where Alaska is. But yeah, Britain, French, Spain, the big three, they're just competing with each other, fighting over each other. Look at Ohio River Valley, disputed territory. Vital access to the Ohio River, which goes all the way to the Mississippi River down in New Orleans. And, you know, that's why they're fighting for access to trade routes. They're fighting for access to resources. Oops, the heck. Okay. The war begins. Okay, so then we're not talking about the American Revolution. We're talking about the prequel to the prequel. Okay, we're talking about the French and Indian War, also known as the 7 Years' War in Europe, which actually lasted 9 years. I know it's confusing, but that's because the first 2 years they didn't really fight that much. All right, Fort Duquesne was built to stem British expansion of the Ohio River Valley, right? So Britain is eyeballing the Ohio River Valley. It's just primo real estate. Okay, Virginia Governor Robert Dinwiddie sent Washington to evict the French. Okay, so Washington is getting his origins, guys. He's getting his experience points, and he's leveling up. Okay, nonstop. Washington attacked an advance patrol, and he attacked the reinforcements, and the Native Americans. They counterattacked him, and they defeated him at Fort Necessity. So his first skirmish was kind of bad. Like, Washington kind of started the French and Indian War, and he won at first, but then he kind of lost. So, we'll just forget about that one. Look, Washington's first skirmish. The volley fired by a young Virginian in the backwoods of America set the world on fire. Ooh. So Washington is calling people out. Braddock was defeated by the French and Native Americans. He suffered heavy losses. So Washington was able to shine here. He was able to make an effective retreat, and he salvaged his military career. Thank goodness. That if he wouldn't have done that, then he probably wouldn't have been in the military anymore, and no one would have listened to him, and maybe the British would have won. So single events, guys. Okay. Ooh, not Brad Pitt, William Pitt, but you know, a little different. He's rocking his wig. Yeah, they're not in hair metal bands, guys. They're not from the 80s. This is the 1700s. Okay, by changing generals and strategy, Prime Minister William Pitt, the leader of England, is able to properly fund the war effort by going into massive debt, but they're able to make strategic military advances, and the tide of the war is shifting and changing in favor of England, guys. So England's winning the French and Indian War. And guys, it's not just the French and the Indians fighting England. England had Native Americans on their side too. It was like the French and Indians versus the British and Indians. It's really just France and England fighting each other. Okay, end of the war. England wins. Okay, England defeats France. They defeat Montreal. Spain joins the war a little late. Spain was homeboys with France. They were trying to help France, but they got defeated too. Britain just was slapping people around. 1763. That's the end of this is a crucial year, guys. 1763. I remember in class when we learned this first semester. It's a watershed year. Okay, a lot of amazing things happened in 1763, and we're going to go over those. So, Treaty of Paris. France gives Louisiana to Spain. So, low-key, France was like, dude, I'm going to lose. Here, you take all this land and, you know, be chill, and then later give it back to us maybe, right? But we don't want Britain to get it because we hate them. So, Spain gave Florida to the British. They were like, okay, don't take Louisiana because it's gigantic and, like, has New Orleans. But they gave Florida to Britain, and the Caribbean islands were given back to the original countries. Okay, now, 1763, watershed year, Pontiac's rebellion happens, guys. So Pontiac was homeboys with the French because they like to trade the fur trade in the Ohio River Valley. So Pontiac was like, dude, I am tired of this. So he just went on a rampage, and he was like unstoppable. Okay, he was just a pro gamer, just nonstop massacring. He was able to unify a lot of different tribes, and that's going to come back to get him because he'll be assassinated by one of his own Native American compatriots, right? So Pontiac, he causes England to say, you know what, we're going to make the proclamation line of 1763 because British settlers kept going past the Appalachian Mountains, and Pontiac and Native Americans were like, dude, these white people keep coming into our land. We hate this. And they're not French, right? They're British. So we don't like them. Let's keep fighting and let's burn everything down. So England was like, dude, we have no money. We spent all our money on the French and Indian War. And even though we won, they were in heavy debt. So they're like, dude, we can't send soldiers and pay them a living wage to protect the colonists who are being greedy and just going into natives' lands. That's their problem. So Florida and Quebec were given to England, not given to like the colonists. Okay, that triggered some people. And you can't go past the line, guys. You can't go past the Appalachian Mountain. It's kind of like a quarantine or something, right? Like you got to stay in the 13 colonies, okay? Because we don't want to get the Native Americans mad. Because we don't want Pontiac to come back, or Little Turtle, or who knows, some new Native American, goat will emerge, right? So the colonists, they ignore it. They're like, dude, I do what I want. This is America. I'm going to go. I don't care about Native Americans. All right. So unintended consequences, guys. Okay, that is an awesome phrase that I like to use. British helped train the enemy. Okay, so the colonists, they leveled up, guys, getting nonstop experience in those previous wars. Okay, all the wars we went over, right? And so they're going to get better training. They're going to they kind of know how the British military has weaknesses. They're like, they're not that good. Okay, maybe they're ranked number one, but they're overrated. And they're weak. They just fought France and Spain. They're kind of struggling with money. So Pontiac's Rebellion and the Proclamation Line, that causes tension, guys, between the colonists and Britain. The beef starts there, right? Okay. Large military presence in America concerned the colonists. Okay. So it kind of got people paranoid, guys. They're like, dude, there's all these British soldiers in the colonies. What's up? Is this a police state? Why are they here? Is it a conspiracy? Are they going to control our lives? So England was chill. They had salutary neglect. That was like the hands-off approach. Like, we have laws, but we're not going to check, right? Very lax in terms of like, oh, we're not going to check if you're smuggling. We don't want you to smuggle, but we're not going to check, right? And the Navigation Acts, right? You can only trade with England, but hey, they're not checking. So colonists traded with France, with Spain, who cares? But then, because of the French and Indian War, England's going to be really in a bind with money, and they're going to be like, hey, bro, you know how I never was strict? Well, now we're strict, dude. So you need to like stop smuggling and give us the taxes and give us the money. Colonies gain a sense of unity. So the colonists had some unfounded, sense of superiority. So they were like, dude, we're the best. We beat France, we beat Spain, we beat everyone. We're like the GOAT, bro. Come at me, bro. Removal of French threat gave colonists a chance to pursue more independent policies. So, yeah, the colonists are like, dude, France is gone, Spain's gone, or like Spain isn't good, so we can do whatever we want, man. This is like an open world. So France is going to hate England for losing the French and Indian War, and then they're going to totally want to help America when they get the chance. They want revenge. They're like, ho ho, vivels, okay, I'm sorry, that was a horrible accent. I'm just going to stop right there. Okay, AP exam practice. All right. Let's check in. Okay, this is an SAQ. So let's take a minute on the clock to just go over A, B, and C, okay? Hey Google, put a minute on the clock. Hey Google.
Okay, 1 minute. Starting.
Put a minute on the clock. Google? Hey Google, 1 minute on the clock.
All right, 1 minute, and we're starting now.
Okay, Google scared me there. Don't do that to me, Google. 1763, guys. Watershed year. Turning point. Pontiac's Rebellion. Pontiac's Rebellion. Proclamation line. End of salutary neglect. End of the French and Indian War. 4 things. Oh yeah, PEEP. PEEP. P-E-E-P. PEEP. Oh god. No, there's still time, guys. Hang on. There's like 10 seconds. Remember PEEP. Hey Google. Stop. Okay, we got to remember PEEP, guys, from class. P-E-E-P, that's 1763. It rhymes. Remember that rhyme. So, Proclamation line of 1763, that's the P. End of salutary neglect. End of the French and Indian War. And Pontiac's Rebellion. Okay, sorry. My brain lagged right there. It froze. Okay, I need more coffee. All right, so A, let's go over A. Do I do that? Oh, okay. Now we'll do that in a second. All right, we will do this in the exit ticket, okay? So, one specific, okay, so it's pretty much the answer I gave you, right? Effect, right? France is out of the colonies. There's tension because of the proclamation line of 1763. One event, the end of the end of the French and Indian War. That's A. B. Proclamation line of 1763. Talk about it, how it makes tension. C. Another specific event. Pontiac's Rebellion, right? Pontiac's Rebellion is going to happen. So PEEP. Just remember, that's the answer. Okay. Levels of causation. All right, these are the levels of causation for this historical thinking skill. Okay, there's a multi-tiered domains, or within this domain. So we're just going to have to go over it. You know, there's different ways that we can enforce this causation within our essays, within our DBQ. So describe the causes or effects of a specific historical development or process. Explain the relationship between causes and effects of specific historical development or process. Explain the difference between primary and secondary causes, short and long-term effects. Okay, so you're doing nuances. It's not just like what cause and effect, like from elementary school and middle school, right? This is AP, so a broad range of things. Okay, you got to rank them. Okay, there's a primary cause and there's secondary causes, right? Short-term effects, long-term effects. Contextualization. Okay, how is that gonna? What led up to it, right? What wars led up to the French and Indian War? That's what we did earlier. What is the historical significance of the causes and effects? How is this going to play down the line? Good. All right. Ooh, this guy, he's just clowning. Look at this funny political cartoon of the Sugar Act. Okay. So they're drawing the king and the queen, just super disrespectful. But they're just throwing shade at the Sugar Act because they hate it. All these American people are like, dude, why are you charging all these taxes, bro? And England was like, hey, remember how we fought for you for the French and Indian War? Yeah, you're gonna have to pay us back. And the colonists were like, bro, no, we hate taxes. So they draw King George looking like a clown, and they draw the Queen looking like, well, you can see what she looks like. And so increased jurisdiction of admiralty courts. So there's going to be military courts have more scope and power. A lot of rights are going to be taken away. The scope of writs and assistance are going to be enlarged, so easier to get search warrants. Customs officials are going to have more authority to search the boats and search people for contraband or smuggling stuff. Like, hey, this is a French croissant. This is not an English muffin. So how did you get this French croissant then, huh? If you're only supposed to buy from England. Explain to me that. Brah. Okay. 8 colonies sent formal petitions protesting the act in which they were ignored. Yeah, the king was like, I don't care. I'm the king, all right? I do what I want, all right? I am the goat, right? Okay. The Stamp Act of 1763. Okay, another tax, guys. Just all these acts are just taxes, guys. And then the colonists are going to get more and more triggered with each and every single new piece of taxation legislation. All right, tax on legal documents, newspapers, almanacs, just everything that deals with paper or printed stuff. And this is where people are like, I've had it. No taxation without representation. Okay, a lot of you guys remember that from 8th grade. Shout out to Miss Chavez doing a wonderful job. But you got to use that, guys. You could use that quote. I know in the essay I say don't quote stuff because it just shows that you're using filler and you're just writing a bunch of fluff. But you can use quotes like no taxation without representation. Just don't quote the documents because it just shows that you're not analyzing. You're just putting in quotations. So they're showing that, dude, we don't have a seat at Parliament. We can't vote on stuff. Like, that's not fair. I thought we were British, like, citizens too. What's up? All right. Stamp Act. People hate it. So they make the Stamp Act Congress. They're gonna talk about it. They're gonna have delegates. They're gonna try to come up with new laws internally to counteract. Okay. So they're like, dude, only new taxes can come from for the colonies, not from England. Okay. So there's this divide, like state powers and central power, right? Yeah. Sons of Liberty. Okay, so you could use this as an example of the way the colonies responded to the increasing, intervention by England, right? How else do they respond? Whoa, they tar and feather tax collectors. This guy's having a bad day. They put like boiling tar on his skin and then put feathers on him like a chump, and then they pour boiling tea in his mouth. Okay, and look, he's got a stick. He's probably gonna beat him up, and then look, they're gonna probably hang him maybe. And look, Stamp Act is upside down. This is called Liberty Tree. This is America. And back there, look, Boston Tea Party, guys. Sons of Liberty. They're throwing the tea into the Boston Harbor. And I know eventually we will go to Boston, guys. All right, Sons of Liberty. While violent resistance garnered more headlines, boycotting was the most effective tactic, right? So like these little pieces of violence, the riots and the lynching, well, not lynching, but like the tar and feathering, right, of the tax collectors, along with the Boston Tea Party, that's like very fancy, but just refusing to buy tea and refusing to buy products, that was way more effective. And that's called boycotting, guys. A very important term that you know. Okay, British responses. What's Britain going to do? What's the king going to do? Is he going to be chill with it? Like, oh yeah, that's their right to freedom of speech. No. Stamp Act. Well, England is like, dude, things are getting crazy. So England, at first, they're like, let's get rid of the Stamp Act. That's like really bad. People are going crazy. But then the Declaratory Act says, hey, Parliament has the right to make laws for the colonies in all cases whatsoever. So it just reinforces power for England. So it's sending mixed signals, like, oh, we're going to be chill and repeal the Stamp Act, but then we're going to like make it known that we can put whatever law we want, and we're in charge, bruh. What's up, right? And England is like, dude, you need to stop, okay? Now the Courting Act, this is, the colonists hate this. Because of the Boston Tea Party and because the colonists did like millions of dollars of damage and lost profits from tea sales, King George, he says, hey, the military troops, I'm not going to pay for a hotel. They can sleep in your house. And the troops were not nice. They would eat all the food in your fridge, eat the sandwich which you were saving for later. It was just awful. They clogged the toilet. Horrible roommates, okay? Gross. And never cleaned up after themselves. So colonists were getting triggered by that, guys. They were like, dude, what is going on? What is happening? Why is this happening? Townshend duties, just more taxes, guys. Leads to more hostility. Okay. Boston Massacre. Okay. The Boston protesters were throwing snowballs and probably rocks, and then the soldiers got like freaked out and they started shooting their guns, and it just caused like a couple of people died, and all the soldiers got acquitted. Right? They were like, oh, not guilty. for murder. And we see that sometimes, nowadays, which is why we have, Black Lives Matter movement, stuff like that. But, the Tea Act, okay, now they're taxing a tea, but it actually lowered the cost of tea, okay? But even though it lowered the cost of tea, because like they were trying to make sure that the British East India Company was put in check, well, it's still gonna look like bad for the colonists. They're like, dude, another tax, but it's like, dude, colonists, hey, calm down. Tea costs went down. Why are you mad? So back to the Boston Tea Party. The Sons of Liberty, they're on board, dressed up as natives. They weren't fooling anyone, though. England wasn't like, oh, it's the Native Americans that did it. No, they knew it was the Sons of Liberty. Okay, they took credit for it. And so, here we have the Intolerable Acts, okay? So Britain is going to just close Boston Harbor, no town hall meetings anymore. People will be tried in England, and it'll take like 6 months or a year to get tried, and you'll be like in jail for all that time. And so the Courting Act is in full effect. The colonists are just super, super outraged over this. Okay, it's just getting more and more tense, guys. More and more tension, new laws, new taxes, more and more tension. Okay, First Continental Congress, they meet to see what they're going to do about it. So this is the first like steps towards the American Revolution, right? Then boom, Battle of Lexington and Concord, guys. The first shots of the American Revolution. And this is in the outskirts of Boston, right? So Boston, they were the ones that were the most gung-ho and rebellious, and England was just like shutting it down. Like 1 in 4 people was a British troop. Okay, so times were tough. And the troops, they got a tip. The British troops were going to go find the weapons for the colonists and get rid of them. But then the colonists, they were tipped off too, and they were able to move them before they were discovered. The American independence hasn't been declared yet, so we'll get to that. Okay, then the Second Continental Congress, May 1775, they're kind of trying to work things out. They give an olive branch petition to King George, like, hey, we're sorry, can we go back to the way things were? Let's work it out. And then King George was like, no, I'm not. I'm too mad. Okay, I don't care. I don't want to talk about it. Okay. So when did the revolution really begin, guys? Did it begin with the Declaration of Independence? Did it begin with the Lexington and Concord? Did it begin with, the Boston Tea Party? Let's think about this, all right? So we're going to take a minute. No, let's see. We'll take 30 seconds to read this and then 30 seconds to respond. Hey, Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
All right, 30 seconds. And that's starting now.
Hey, Google, stop. Okay. So John Adams here is writing a letter to his friend, his homeboy, Thomas Jefferson. And they had beef for a little while, but they got over it. And they died on the same day, guys, on July 4th. So, let's see so John Adams is like, dude, when did the revolution happen? Okay, what is his argument? We have to make arguments for our essay, for our thesis. What is the argument of John Adams here? He's saying, hey, this is not something new, okay? The revolution didn't start when we declared independence from England. It was in the works, guys. It was in the works even when the French and Indian War was happening. It was in the minds of the people with the Enlightenment movement, okay, with the First Great Awakening. It was in the works as soon as England started to end salutary neglect and become more abrasive and out of touch with our goals and our motives, right? That's his argument. Okay, so ideology of the revolutionaries, guys. They are very educated, so they're going to look toward, hey, what are the alternatives? If we have a monarchy in England, what other systems of government are there? I mean, what options do we have, right? Do we go communist? Well, the communism doesn't exist yet, so no. No, let's go democratic. That worked in the ancient world. Representative government, rule of the people, right? Let's have a republic. Um, so they're going to look at the Enlightenment movement, guys, that was happening in England. Social contract theory with John Locke, the Magna Carta, limiting the power of the king. That's in 1200s, guys, with Charlemagne. And what experience did they have? Well, they're already doing town meetings. They already have the self-autonomous bodies in the colonies, like the Virginia House of Burgesses. They are going against like the aristocracy, the elites, in terms of, well, not wealth like the plantation owners, but there aren't going to be dukes and duchesses and lords and knights and princes and princesses, and because that just from your birth, like you're already born with a lot of privilege, right? And that, in America, we don't think that that is very egalitarian, very equal. Enlightenment, rationalism, let's have limited government, guys. People have natural rights. The government should be limited. The government should work for the people, not the other way around. Okay. So we're gonna look at T. Paine. Okay, Thomas Paine's Common Sense. He was amazing, guys. Thomas Paine's one of my favorite, revolutionary authors. He's very libertarian. He's very, he's very focused on helping the common American people. Okay, so this is going to influence the Declaration of Independence, guys. So we're going to look at two documents that change American attitudes. Okay, so let's look at the sourcing for Common Sense. Okay, this is Hippo, right? So if you had any excerpt from Common Sense, which we will in the DBQ, this is the Hippo, guys. So this is an example of Hippo, because I know we're working on DBQs. This is what you would, these are the options you would have. And remember, we don't do all the letters, we just choose one of the letters, right? So any one of these you would choose for a document for Common Sense. So intended audience, that the Common Sense is written for the colonial citizens, politicians of Britain, the colonist politicians. Purpose, get Americans to think and unite them that they should declare independence. Context, this is around the time of the American Revolution, right? 1775, Battle of Bunker Hill, Lexington, Concord already happened. America has no choice but declare independence from Britain. Like he's like, hey, we should declare independence. Let's make it official. Okay, so let's take 30 seconds to read this segment. And what is the metaphor Paine uses here? Okay, hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
Okay, 30 seconds. Starting now.
Hey Google, stop. So, Common Sense is, Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense to persuade people. So it's a persuasive, work of literature, right? And so he's making an argument. He's saying, look, some people, what's the counter argument? What's the other side? They're thinking, oh, well, the colonies have all that we have because we're with England. England has made us flourish, right? And he's like, well, not necessarily. Just because, and he makes a metaphor, right? Just because babies drink milk, does that mean they're going to drink milk all their life and rely on their mom to give them food? No. Okay. Babies, wait till babies have a ribeye steak or some fajitas. They're gonna love that. Okay, it's way better. Okay, let's get some something better than milk. All right. Common Sense number 2. Let's get another 30 seconds on the clock. Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock. Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
All right, 30 seconds. And we're starting now.
Hey Google, stop. Okay, in this excerpt, he's still trying to chip away at the counter arguments. So he's saying, look, some people say that England's our mother country, our parent country. Well, okay, that might be the case, but shame on them. It's even worse. They're like a neglectful parent. That's not good. They're treating us super bad, and a lot of people came from England because of like religious freedom, and those same kind of persecutions from England are following now again in the colonies. Okay, now Common Sense 3, let's read this part of it. Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
Sure, 30 seconds. Starting now.
Hey Google, stop. So now he's kind of saying, hey, some people, I'm gonna change my mind, right? I'm gonna throw this out there. Who can prove to me that it's better for us to be with England, right? Because if we're not with England, we can trade with any country in Europe. We can buy from any country in Europe. England wants to keep having wars with countries we don't even care about, and why is that our problem, right? Why should we fight against France or Spain if they don't have any beef with us? Another 30 seconds. Hey Google, 30 seconds. Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
30 seconds is a South African fast-paced general knowledge game. Players generally play in teams of two.
Okay, no, that's not what I asked, Google. Stop. All right, thank you. Okay, I'll just tell us one. I can count in my head. Okay. So he's saying like it's common sense, guys. England is like 1,000 miles away, and it's a tiny island, and we're a huge continent. It makes no sense, right? That's just fate. Like we're separated. We need to separate, right? We're not next to each other. It's time to break away, guys. That's just nature. That's just the way it is. All right, now part 5. 30 seconds, guys. Okay, so here he's saying, look, guys, he's making like he's making some imagery with allusions from the Bible, saying like the Pharaoh in Old Testament is like linked like the King of England, that we need to free our people, and we're getting slaughtered, and we need to be free because the king shouldn't rule us, right? Nature, the divine. There is no divine right, right? So let's check in, guys. The ideas expressed in the excerpt from Common Sense best reflect which of the following historical processes. I'll give you 30 seconds. Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
According to Wikipedia, 30 seconds is a South African
Hey Google,
fast-paced general knowledge.
stop. Okay, I'll tell you when. Google's being crazy today. Okay, guys, so a lot of these don't really deal with common sense. The one that really does is the Enlightenment ideas, right? So it's going to be D. Okay, now we're going to go with the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson, who was super influenced by the Enlightenment, and John Locke, right? So, yeah, he really had to like pull an all-nighter and finish the Declaration of Independence. So Declaration quote number 1. I'll give you 15 seconds on the clock to read this. We've read it before. All men are created equal. Rights that cannot be taken away. Life, liberty, And the protection of property? Oh, that's John Locke. Oh no, he just changed it to pursuit of happiness. Okay. So the consent of the governed, right? We're not doing divine right, we're doing natural rights. Now, part two. Oops. So when the government's bad, guys, you need to change the government. Destroy it, make it better, make it new, get rid of it. Okay? Oops. So yeah, the British king is a tyrant. He's a dictator. This is bad. We can't be doing this. We have to make our own government that works for the people. Okay. So let's take a look at this list that's in the Declaration of Independence. 30 seconds on the clock. Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
All right, 30 seconds. And that's starting now.
So this is like a list of grievances, right? These are all the grievances. This is just a list of like, why are we breaking away? Hey Google, stop. So yeah, can you think of specific acts that Jefferson is alluding to? And yeah, we can think of many of them. The Intolerable Acts, the Quartering Act, just a lot of the Stamp Act, Sugar Act, any of the taxation laws, right? So he's just making a list of all the problems that, all the grievances that are leading us to break away for independence, right? Good. So let's take a look at an SAQ on the Declaration of Independence. Briefly describe the historical situation in which the Declaration of Independence was written. It was written during, after the French and Indian War, when England was trying to collect taxes and impose new laws on the colonists that caused, hostility and tension, ending salutary neglect. Briefly describe the purpose of the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence was to formally address the issue with the King of England and make it official that the colonies would be forming their own government apart from the King of England, right? So we're going to start our own republic. We're not going to be part of England anymore. So I would mention republic, democratic institution. Describe one piece of evidence using the Declaration of Independence to support its argument. The piece of evidence is that list of grievances, right? So just the list of all the problems that we just saw on the previous slide, right? Okay, how the Americans won the war. This would be like this was another topic that we went over, but guys, the advantages were on England's side. They were like the #1 military. It'd be like if the Valley fought against the United States of America and then the Valley won, right? That'd be like, whoa, what? Are you serious? So, but America didn't have, America wasn't alone, right? They had some superpowers on their side, like France and Spain. So it'd be like if the Valley fought against America, but the Valley for some reason had like Russia and China on its side, giving us troops and money and the Navy and all this stuff. So yeah, just a weird thing to think about. But it's kind of fun, isn't it? All right, so British, they had more population, more wealth, more military guys. They had some very battle-hardened troops. America, well, we're playing defense, and usually when you're fighting a defensive war, you have a military advantage in that regard. We had great American generals, General Washington, Horatio Gates, a lot of good generals. British generals, they weren't that good, even though you would think they had more experience. But some of them, they were just generals because, I'm an aristocrat, so I became a general, and they really don't know anything. And so, defensively, because we know the geography, we're going to do a lot better. And we're going to do like hidden run tactics like guerrilla warfare that we learned from the Native Americans. Okay, great leadership. Let's look at Ben Franklin. It's all about the Benjamins. He Most importantly, he negotiated support from France to help us. So without France's support, guys, we would have lost. And Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson were the ones to get that going, guys. Role of Washington, guys. Great military general. He was able to make the key crucial decisions and who to hire, right? Which generals is he going to hire to have the other battles, right? So just great leadership. Despite losing and despite hardship, he was still able to make good decisions, right? Because you might be a great leader, but then things go wrong, and then you start to mess up or you start to give up, right? He never gave up, guys. And he didn't want to be a dictator. He didn't want to be president. He was like, dude, why am I going to be president? So a great leader doesn't want to be a leader, right? Other groups that aided in the victory, women. Okay, without the women's support, kind of like in the other wars, Civil War, World War II, World War I, we probably would have lost. Okay, they were spies. They did all these cool things. Molly Pitcher, Deborah Sampson, she cut her hair off and pulled a Mulan, started fighting. Artisans, just everyone was getting involved, guys. The French and the Spanish really helped us military, financially. So DBQ practice, guys. Let's look at this prompt because we might write this DBQ. Hint, hint. Evaluate the extent of change in ideas about American independence from 1763 to 1783. Oh, that's the DBQ from 2016, isn't it? Brainstorm. What do you already know about this? What changed? What didn't change? I'm going to give you 30 seconds, guys. Hey, Google. 30 seconds on the clock.
All right, 30 seconds. Starting now.
Hey, Google. Stop. All right, so remember the three things we look for when breaking down the prompt: the skill, the scope, and the time period, right? So, skill, change. So that's changing continuity over time. What changed? What didn't change, right? Also, time period: 1763. Oh, that's the end of the French and Indian War. 1783. That's the end of American Revolution. Okay, so just a window of two big conflicts. And the scope is during American independence, right? So 1763 is the end of salutary neglect, end of the French and Indian War. 1783, we've gone from being a colony to being our own independent country, right? And so we talk about like what led to the American Revolution, what were the causes. There was financial reasons, economic, just the monarchy and democracy were conflicting. Okay, so yeah, people changed their minds. They were like, well, maybe we should be with England, and then now we're like, no, we should be our own country. What didn't change? Well, the same people who are in power are going to remain in power. Old, rich, white men. Okay, you had to be rich, you had to be white, and you had to be a man. And those are the people who are going to have power. Women aren't going to have any power. Black people aren't going to have any power. Native Americans aren't going to have any power. There's still slavery, right? So that's things that didn't change. We did have a democracy. Okay, good. Wait, but women can't vote. So that's already like 50% of the population can't vote. Okay, so maybe not democracy, but kind of like democracy. A little bit of, oligarchy maybe. Okay. Or at least we don't have a king anymore, so no more monarchy. Boom. So let's look at contextualization, the background information, guys. A lot of people are struggling with that skill again of contextualization. This is how you start off the essay, guys. So the background info, right? What leads up to the question? So Enlightenment ideas, you would talk about the Enlightenment, natural rights that happened in England with John Locke and Montesquieu, social contract theory. There is a legacy, English Civil War, the Dominion of England, the Glorious Revolution, right? The Glorious Revolution in England is going to kind of show that there's hostility and tension in England. The end of salutary neglect, right? After the French and Indian War, more taxes. So Native Americans and African Americans are going to have a bad experience with the revolution, okay? And Great Britain is going to wage a war against the colonies that a lot of people are going to change their mind. They're like, well, Britain is actually going to fight us. Wow, they're not going to settle it, or give us what we want, like no taxation without representation. So people are like, nah, that's it, it's over. Okay, here's an example of the start of the essay, guys. The first half of the first body paragraph, or sorry, the first half of the intro before the thesis. So you would start your essay. The French and Indian War caused Britain to increase involvement in the affairs of the American colonies. British leaders such as George Grenville believed that the colonists who had been beneficiaries of the war be required to assist in paying the debt incurred by it. So George Grenville was a bad guy, okay, according to the colonists. He came up with the end of salutary neglect. He was like, no, we don't want salutary neglect. They should pay for the debt. This was achieved through a series of taxes imposed on the colonists. So you could throw in like end of salutary neglect. I would totally say end of salutary neglect. Directions for part 2. Now let's make a thesis, guys. Or here's a working thesis that we would have come up with. So how would we use Hippo to support our thesis, right? Because you have to use Hippo, and you have to describe the documents to get all those 5 extra points for the documents in the rubric, because the new rubric has 10 out of 10, not 7 out of 7. So working thesis, here's our thesis. The ideas of American independence changed greatly from 1763 to 1783. In the beginning, colonists only wanted representation and a say in legislation of new laws, but by 1783, Americans wanted true independence from British rule. So we're going to do Hippo, guys. Okay? How would you use these documents to support your thesis? Okay? Okay, document 1, 30 seconds, guys. Look at the teapot. Oh, deals with the Stamp Act. Okay? Deals with taxes. Okay? Hey, Google. 30 seconds on the clock. Use Hippo, guys. Use Hippo. Hey, Google.
All right,
30 seconds on the clock.
second timer for 30 seconds. And we're starting now.
What? Google's being crazy today. Historical context would be easy. Purpose, super easy. I'd probably go with purpose. Hey Google, stop. Okay, so I'd go with purpose. The purpose is to, show protest. Hey Google, stop. Okay, so purpose, show resentment for the Stamp Act, show lack of support for the Stamp Act. Okay, intended audience, the American colonists. Okay, point of view, just not supportive of new taxation from England. Yeah. Historical context, this is after the French and Indian War. England is trying to pay for its massive debt. Okay. So keep in mind with our thesis, guys. We got to support our thesis. So it changed greatly at first. Remember, we only wanted representation, but then we're going to want independence by 1783. So the context, we're going to be trading with England, but the taxation makes it more hostile. Britain's going to make money, profit from the Stamp Act, and the audience is consumers in Britain and the colonies, right? So they made those teapots to try to influence people in England as well, too, guys. But, document 2. Okay, let's take 30 seconds for the document 2, guys. The Virginia House of Burgesses. How does it support the working thesis? Hey, Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
All right, 30 seconds. Starting now.
Hey Google, stop. Okay, possible answers to support our working thesis. For the Hippo, so historical context or intended audience, that'd be the easiest ones to do. Good. Yeah, intended audience, colonial assemblies, talking to England, right? The British Parliament. That's what they want. Okay, they want change. Document 3. Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
All right, 30 seconds. Starting now.
Hey Google, stop. Okay, so purpose, apply Enlightenment ideas to support the growing calls for colonial independence. This is point of view. This, remember, Sam Adams is a son of liberty, right? Political leader. Um, Context, okay, transatlantic exchange, concepts of republicanism. Okay, hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
All right, 30 seconds. And that's starting now.
Hey Google, stop. Okay, so the Quakers, remember guys, they're pacifists. They don't want to go, they don't want to get in conflict or anything. So, um, so they don't want to go to war. They want to work things out. So it's a different point of view, right? The Quakers are more peaceful. They're more open to peaceful ways. So there, you can see different opinions, right? Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
Okay, 30 seconds. Starting now.
Hey Google, stop. Okay, point of view, upper class woman. She did not like that the loyalists who were loyal to England still during the revolution were getting treated bad. Um, so she has a different idea, guys. Loyalists are going to be supportive of England. They don't want to go to war with England. Okay, so they have a different point of view. They're not gonna support the American Revolution, the American independence movement. Okay, so that's the purpose. It kind of challenges the independence movement. Document 6. Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
Okay, 30 seconds. And we're starting now.
Hey Google, stop. Oh, oops. Okay, well in document 6, guys, they're just talking about like a trade deficit with between England and the colonies, just how many imports, how many exports. They're also talking. I mean, that's the historical context. The costs of the revolution, talking about like how much debt would arise. So this is kind of showing. So it's showing that logistically, it's the purpose is, hey, it's not going to be that bad to fight England, guys. Okay, we're going to actually make more money if we're independent. Okay, so this is supporting the idea that we're going to. It's better to be broken away from England, right? Because of this financial motive, this economic motive. Last document. Hey Google, 30 seconds on the clock.
All right, 30 seconds. And that's starting now.
Hey Google, stop. Okay, so it's just going to put more support for the Patriot cause. That's the point of view. And the purpose, make an emotional appeal for people who are like losing hope. And yeah, the Continental Army was suffering, and that's why people might have been dissuaded for continuing the revolution, guys. So Thomas Paine is really trying to get people to be in support, even though they started to lose. Okay. Now, 5 things to keep in mind, guys. So the French Indian War was a long-range cause for the American Revolution. Economic issues caused a divide. Mercantilism isn't going to be supported by the colonists. So resistance is going to lead to a calling for independence. Common sense Declaration of Independence were based on Enlightenment ideas. And the victory was led by great leadership and all of American society and the assistance of France and Spain, but mainly France. Great job, guys. Have a great day. Study hard.